Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And the CDL has revealed the entire season schedule we're going to have here in 2022. Definitely some mixed opinions. Going to run through and explain exactly how things are going to transpire this year today. But also, the OpTic guys making their frustrations known with the way the pros have handled the Sniper GA debacle. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, hitting that like button is the best thing you can do. Top this channel reach new people. And please do subscribe as well if you have not yet already. Let's just dive it straight into things then with, of course, the Kickoff Classic. That starts next weekend. Not going to be considered a major tournament by pretty much anyone except maybe the 4 players that win the entire event. Because, you know, it's single elimination. There's no real prize money. There's 30 grand up for grabs, but still there's no points on the line for the CDL season. Things that really kick off when we get into the majors, which pretty much used to be described as stages, but now things are slightly different. So effectively, the first majors are going to be beginning at the start of February with the qualifiers for the LAN tournament at the end of the stage, or at least what used to be called the stage, and now is just a major in its entirety. Now, it's quite interesting really what the CDL have done here, because for the entire season, these qualifying matches have already been determined. You can look forward to Major 4, which is, you know, in like June, July time, and to already see what matches are going to be played, which is kind of interesting. It definitely has its pros, it definitely has its cons, and also there's a massive mid-season really here, which has really caused a lot of the controversy, I think, over these last 24 hours. So let's just dive into how things go. So there's 4 majors this year. Of course, we had 5 last year, but there is also this mid-season with effectively another championship in there as well in the Pro-Am Classic, which I think quite a few people are missing about this. And of course, there's also the Kickoff Classic here in a week or so's time, which actually is an event which we didn't get in the previous couple of seasons. So I think there certainly have been some steps in the right direction here. Let's just dive into things. So Major 1 starts on February the 4th. The online qualifiers go on for 3 weeks or so, as they have done before, with the home series as they were, which is just group play matches before. This is a similar thing. Every team plays 5 matches in these online qualifiers based on their performances in those 5 matches, and these 5 matches they play are predetermined all the way up to July, right? So we can see on July the 17th who's going to be playing. Now, and you can see that for the entire season. So you can map out when your team's going to play. At the same time, though, like more than likely, a particular star-studded lineup, like FaZe versus OpTic, for example, might well happen before it actually is scheduled to happen, because it could happen at one of the majors, right? So that's why I kind of, you know, get this kind of strange. But still, so 3 weeks of online qualifiers. They're only going to be taking place now Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If you guys remember last year, there was 2 games on Thursdays and Fridays, then there was 3 games on Saturdays, Sundays. This year they've said, look, we're no more Thursday games. Let's do 3 games on Friday, 4 games on Saturday, and 3 games on Sunday every weekend, which personally I think is better. The LAN tournament's also 4 days, because these LAN tournaments now have a lot of matches, because there's no buys. Of course, all 12 teams are there, so I'm pretty sure there's 18 matches on a weekend. Spreading that over 4 days now, that's pretty cool. One of the things that people may notice here is that for Major 1, there's quite the delay. There's an entire week and a bit between the qualifiers and then the major. I don't think that's what they intended to do, but maybe they couldn't find another date for this to work. And actually, after the Major 1 finishes, the OpTic LAN, then it's actually very soon after that, the Major 2 starts with the online qualifiers once again, pretty much next week. Usually they'd have a week off between them. So I think there's a slight anomaly here really with Major 1, Major 2. But what a lot of people are talking about, well, first of all, the Rokkr LAN tournament, that is tentative. Some people are saying if Rokkr can't find a venue, which seems to be the limiting factor right now, then maybe give it to Boston or someone. Of course, there's no tournaments outside of, well, there's no tournaments outside of North America, with a London tournament potentially. I'm sure a lot of people would like that one. Maybe they'll do champs in London this year, which we've been asking for a few years now, but kind of unlikely. But still, you know, there's 4 majors, all with fans, like plus of course champs that has not yet quite been confirmed. The mid-season is really causing a lot of the controversy right now, because it's quite a long time, right? After the Major 2 ends on April the 3rd, there's a long time, over a month, until Major 3's online qualifiers start. Now, this has been something the pros have been asking for quite some time, especially last season, that the mid-season is just like, well, it's so difficult for the pros, because they basically have no time off at all. They finish one major, they maybe take 1 or 2 days off, then straight back into practice for the next time, and obviously they're playing a lot per day. So I think this is probably the pro said, look, we need kind of like a break in the middle of the season. We play a lot of tournaments. Now, what they've decided to do here is do a mid-season where there's 3 things going on. There's an all-star weekend taking place online. That's, you know, maybe they'll do 1v1s or something like they've done the last couple of years. You know, it's kind of good to watch, but there's nothing spectacular. Then there's a Warzone, like there's some sort of Warzone tourney online. Chrome goes on to explain in a second exactly how that goes. But then this is the major thing to me, and this is really exciting, honestly. There's a Pro-Am Classic. This is a LAN, location to be determined, on May 5th through the 8th. And this is all 12 pro teams, plus the 4 best amateur teams in the world. Pretty sure the best amateur team from North America, Latin America, APAC, and Europe all come to this venue, and with all the pro teams. And whoever wins this is definitely another championship. I think people are missing this, really. They just see the mid-season, think there's nothing going on here. But to me, this is going to be a massive event. Might be the most exciting event of the season. And by the time you get to Saturday, Sunday, you'd imagine a lot of the amateur teams have been eliminated. Maybe they took some big scalps with them, but still, you'd think you're going to get the big name pro teams at the end of the tournament. There's also $100,000 up for grabs here. So, there's certainly something to play for, right? So I think that will certainly count as a championship, whoever wins that. So, this is another exciting thing to bring in. The other thing that I don't think people are talking about the mid-season is that it kind of allows the perfect opportunity for teams to make roster changes. Because in the previous season, you go straight from Major 2 into Major 3, and maybe this year, after Major 1, if a team doesn't perform, they might bring in a substitute player or something from their bench, and after Major 2, that's really when you've got the mid-season, you've got basically a month off. Like, that's when teams might be thinking, okay, if we underperform Stage 1, Stage 2, let's make some changes here, and that could be the perfect time, really, those few weeks, for all the teams to actually work something out. So, could be some crazy roster stuff going on in that period, rather than it being like super chaotic and short time-based, when there's not really much time between the majors, as we had so far, and people are making changes between weeks of the stage and stuff like this. So it might not be a thing anymore. There might just be like after Major 2, that's when all the teams decide if they're underperforming. This is when we make some crazy changes during the mid-season, and then we move on to the rest of the season there, a few more months until the championship comes round. So honestly, I'm pretty happy about this. I think there's maybe slightly less COD than last year, but it is more condensed into weekends. There's no more Thursday games, and the mid-season I think is pretty exciting. So there's definitely some pros, definitely some cons. One of the strange things is kind of people describing like the Prom event as it is right now, and like all 12 teams plus the top 4 challenger teams on LAN for $100,000. That is really exciting. We've been asking for this, right? So we've got to definitely support it when it does come around. This also, the Warzone tourney, all 12 teams will drop into Rebirth Island and Resurgence quads online for a cash prize. So I guess that, could be pretty exciting to watch, but nothing too much more than that. This is the other thing as well, right? Is that, COD Gamepedia point out, London and Paris, their games are generally never later than the second series, and they are pretty much at all. So of course, Paris isn't really a European team, right? They have all American players. So maybe you'd think they'd do this for London and Toronto instead, but still, I guess that's at least a good sign. This also, just to mention real quick there, because you guys can go and find out, this, for example, for the Major 3, like, you can see every single matchup that is going to take place. Now, of course, what this does mean, the negative of this, is that some of these teams are effectively going to get blessed, because let's just look at who OpTic are playing, for example. This is Major 3, this is, May 13th already, so we can already see all the way into the future who they're going to be playing. They're going to play LAG, Mutineers, and who are the other teams? I'm pretty sure they play FaZe. Yeah, they play FaZe on Sunday 22nd, and then they play Subliners and they play Thieves. So pretty hard run really for OpTic, at least on paper. But who knows, when you get to that point, maybe these 5 teams they play are the best 5 teams in the game, or maybe they're the worst 5 teams in the game. Who knows? And OpTic have a really easy run. That's one of the things this creates. Yes, you get to see many months out what the schedule is, but at the same time, like by the time you get there, one team might have a really tough schedule, because right now I guess they've tried to control this based on the performances of last year, but that might mean nothing at all by the time you get to this point. So that's kind of the downside, but they do really want to kind of promote this, right, as for example the Battle of LA, as they say right here, March 25th. You can already see in advance when it's going to be, but I don't really think people care too much about this, when it's more than likely we'll see these matchups before this at some of the majors. So a bit of an interesting one. I want to dive into this as well, that's been happening of course the last couple of days. So lots of talk lately about the Sniper Gentleman's Agreement, OpTic's role in it, right? Like, did they want it, did they not want it? And Shotzi was trying to explain that we looked at a couple of days ago. Now, he does a fantastic vlog here, honestly, really cool to see that Shotzi's getting involved in this type of stuff. But he gets Illy and Rambo to explain things in a little bit more detail. Rambo does a fantastic job explaining. I'll share it for you guys now.
So Ender's our rep in the rep chat. So Ender's the one that's the face of the OpTic Texas team to figure out what things are going on to for GA, like the GA stuff basically. So the professional crew that's part of that rep chat was trying to advocate for smokes and snipers being as one thing. Which we disagree with strongly. Smokes are a thing, snipers are a thing. I think snipers do kind of encompass smokes. So you can't really have snipers without smokes.
Agreed.
But saying smokes without snipers is not a case. They don't go along. So Ender was basically doing his best to agree with them on the no sniper thing to try and get smokes in as a starting stone, and then now we're separated. Yeah, to separate it, and now we can start talking about snipers individually as we are now. But to make sure the smoke discussion was separated from the snipers, he agreed to the snipers being out, which I don't like. I don't think we should have done that, but he did his thing. But basically, just
I read the situation.
Yeah, he felt like it was necessary.
I tried swaying them for 2 weeks. I tried swaying them for 2 weeks, saying snipes are OP, and no one was budging. So I read the situation. I'm like, these guys are not budging. I basically have to. I gotta stop saying basically. And then I read the situation, and I knew that we had to I had to convince him some way.
So that's why you had to say yes, because if you said no, then they wouldn't have listened to you.
Yeah, exactly. If I said, yeah, keep snipes and smokes in, then they wouldn't have listened to me on separating the two.
Let me say this as well on top of it. These decisions should never come down to these kinds of discussions. The players should test things, whether it's good or bad, make a decision based on that. There shouldn't be an argument between each other. Each team should test individually what they feel about something, and then it should be an anonymous vote to figure out if they feel like it's good or not. The fact that these players are trying to like persuade each other about these things is super ridiculous and makes no sense at all. Because everyone is looking in for their own interests rather than what makes sense for the actual
Damn!
Thank you.
Yeah, but guess what? It's now Snipes and Smokes are both in. We playing chess.
But now the crazy thing is that like this kickoff event, instead of like, because like obviously there's no points, I say we use this kickoff event to see if it even is OP. And that's the thing, we should test it. Like the thing is, we haven't even tested. That's the crazy thing about this. Like,
not only are we not testing, we took out attachments on the main weapons we're using to make them proper. We're not even willing to do that for snipers before we put them out. Come on, man.
I could say it has been. A lot of people have said it, but it has not gone through in the rep chat of taking off attachments on snipers.
and the thing is that like I said, no one has tested it. All we did was play these kickoff tournament or not. Yeah, we played kickoff tournaments. We haven't played a full tournament with Smokes, Snipes. And I'm saying we should use this kickoff event to do that and see how it goes.
One of the other points that Rambo made that I thought was a really good one was like, why are these pros not wanting to trial the fact that there's no attachments? That's what they've done before when a weapon is particularly strong. Let's say the MP5 in Modern Warfare. Instead of just getting rid of the weapon, they got rid of the 10mm attachment or whatever it was called, and therefore it actually became more balanced. That's something you could well do with the snipers. Take off all the attachments, and then surely they wouldn't be that strong. Like with no attachments at all, they've probably got to be at least somewhat balanced, especially if both teams can have one on their side, right? So that's the thing that Rambo's saying, like, why are these teams not even willing? Why are these players not even willing? They're just arguing with each other and trying to persuade each other rather than doing things anonymously and having teams test it out for themselves to just not use the snipers effectively and not even allow this possibility of not using the attachments, right? So it seems like finally at the Kickoff Classic, sense has kind of prevailed and that they are going to be using them there, right, in an event that doesn't really mean all that much. But, it is kind of interesting, right, because Rambo's maybe implying there, I think probably understandably so, that some teams just want to get rid of snipers at all cost, maybe because they really don't see an advantage from having them in that they don't have a particularly good sniper on their team. They don't want to get, their pockets ran by Simp and Dashy and Illy and all these type of players. Some, I don't even know who would pull out the sniper on OpTic if they had to choose between the two of them. But it's certainly an interesting discussion to continue to be had regardless. And just to finish out with this then, just to kind of show what the COD League are going for right here, which, is an interesting one, because the first matchup, Boston Breach versus LAG on February the 4th, but, people were kind of surprised that they also went on to explain that there are actually many matches happening in many months to come, that, they're also kind of advertising right here. So, for example, FaZe and Ultra, that repeated the World Championship Grand Final March the 20th. But, of course, by the time we get to March the 20th, yes, this matchup won't have happened in maybe stage 1, but it may well have happened at the major, right? Like, theoretically, FaZe versus Ultra could already have happened. So, it's kind of like, yes, you can save the date to when these guys are going to match up. You know when and where, like all that type of stuff. But, obviously, you've got to watch the majors as well to see if these teams match up before that, right? So, kind of interesting. They're kind of advertising this many months in advance. This, for example, as well, maybe trying to find a repeat of the Classico from previous years with Scump versus Crimsix. But because this is so far away, who knows if Crim's even still on the subletters at the time. Maybe some crazy roster stuff happens. But so, yeah, May the 28th. So people were finding it kind of strange that they were advertising these matches many months out. But I guess that's kind of what they're going for this year. But I think on the whole, the format is kind of getting there year on year, especially now with the return of plenty of LAN events this season. But very much intrigued to your thoughts and all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit a like button and tell us YouTube gods this is a good video, and as like you should see it as well, and help grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always, take care, and I will see you next time.